Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Lunch and Legislature. It has been a week. I mean, it's been a while since we've been here. We were off last week. Ian, you had some vacation time. I was up at the Capitol. We just simply did not have time to make this work last week with everything going on. We are back and we are ready to chat. How are you feeling this morning?
Exactly. I'm good. You know, we passed a budget. I was a little worried there for a second. Maybe a couple of seconds if I was Speaker Arch, but you know, we made it through, and that's what matters.
You know, Speaker Arch was actually very, very nervous Wednesday morning.
But he was.
They really got him good with this April Fool's joke. They all voted no on the budget, and you could just see his expression change. It was we have video online. If you go back to that budget passing article and take a look at it,
It's priceless video.
It is so funny to watch. Our friend Zach at the Examiner actually got a series of photos of his reaction in real time. It was one of the funniest things I've witnessed. Of course, they all applauded him for being a good sport, a little harmless humor. But yes, both bills did pass. We have a budget. It has gone to Pillen's desk. We are finally there. It was day 54, which is the latest that they have ever passed a budget.
Record setting, everybody. Well done.
Yeah, they finally got it. You know, day 50 is the day they're supposed to have this done. 4 days may not seem like a lot, but, you know, when you're at that point, you're starting to think, okay, are we extending the session? Are we going to go into a special session? This is the one thing that they are constitutionally required to do is pass a budget. And so they finally got there.
This is like not having your final essay ready when your final is due, but you have a week of grace period, and it's like, I'm going to take most of that week and just kind of get it done then.
Exactly. They fought LB, I think it was 1071.
1071 and 1072.
Yeah, it was held back twice because of this. These two sections. One of them, Pillen's asked for school vouchers, which I know you're really familiar with. So if you want to talk us through what this was and why this was such a big sticking point.
So if you've watched previous episodes, I'm just going to summarize what we've said there very briefly, just because there's a lot going on. But basically, federal big beautiful bill now has funding for private school tuition on there because of District 3 District 3 Representative Adrian Smith from Nebraska, not Senator. He got that put in the big beautiful bill that passed last year, but that doesn't start until the end of like this semester, beginning of next semester, if I remember right. So Pillen wanted to basically provide funding for those students that were in private school, would meet that tuition reimbursement, tax credit, what have you. And Pillen basically said, I want, what was it, $7 million?
$7 million was his original ask, yeah.
That was his original ask and his state of the state. And they kind of said, no, it's not going to happen. We're facing a huge budget shortfall. So then that was taken down to $3.5 million. But basically to get LB 1071 out of the door to Pillen's desk, they had to just strip that out completely.
Yeah, they also took out 304, which we talked about before. That's a Wendy DeBoer priority bill that would keep those child care subsidies from sunsetting. Right now, it's up to 185% of the federal poverty line. I would have dropped it back down, I believe, to 150. It's pretty aggressive cut there. It's been that way for a couple of years. They knew this was going to sunset. We've talked with people on both sides that say, okay, the government shouldn't be funding this, and on the other side, the workforce losses that we're looking at if people don't have childcare. We know childcare shortages are already a thing. So it's been interesting to watch. And when that debate was happening, I think we talked about it a little bit. You got a lot of senators on both sides saying, well, how can you support one and not the other? How can you not support vouchers, but you support the subsidies? So there was a little bit of fight there. Appropriations Chair Robert Clemens took both of those out, and after two failed attempts at passing, they were finally able to pass it. I believe it was a 35-13 vote after the prank on Speaker Arch. So they were able to get that done. And that brings up that broader question, right, when we start talking about policy in a budget bill. This is why they stuck the way that they did.
Yeah, there was a really interesting article, shout out to our friends at the Nebraska Examiner, about when policy should and should not be in a budget bill be debated. And that's a huge, huge thing that we see not just locally and statewide, but federal as well. Where do we put policy? Is it in the budget? And you kind of had people from both sides saying yes or no. I think it depends on I mean, no offense to anybody, but depends on where you stand. You think your policy should probably be in the budget, but your opponent's policy should probably not be in the budget. And I think that is what this really boils down to, Darsha.
And it was last week on the floor, I think it was Robert Dover of Norfolk was saying kind of that thing, this is a very hypocritical thing, right? And it depends on if it's your side or it's not your side, or it's your bill or it's not your bill, whether it should be or shouldn't be. So he said there's a lot of hypocrisy there. Obviously, they got the budget passed.
Absolutely.
It goes to Pillen's desk. So, we started with $471 million in deficit, ballooned up to almost
And it went up to 600
million,
something. Yeah.
which is a crazy number. They were able to get that cut down pretty significantly. One of those bigger transfers was the cash fund. 152 million,
Right
I
here,
think,
Darsha.
came out of that.
I've
got
the numbers right here.
I've got some numbers in here, but run through where we're at.
Okay. So I just want to point out these are preliminary estimates from my math. I could be misinterpreting things, so I'm doing my best over here. So basically, developmental disability aid was one of the largest cuts. It was cut by $348 million. Mental health operations were cut in half. Behavioral health, it looks like about $19 million is what it was cut by. That's either a 19 or a 14. I'm going to lean 19. I have fantastic handwriting. The Veterans Affairs, that was cut by about $100 million. Child welfare aid was cut by about $17.6 million. The Commission on Law Enforcement Central Administration General Fund was cut by about $4 million. Community colleges saw a $5 million cut. And then the rainy day fund, I don't know if you can see it, a big circle here, negative 152. So it was cut $152 million. And part of that was from the Nebraska Settlement, Nebraska Tobacco Settlement Trust Fund. Yes, that is where a lot of that money came from. If I could get my words out, you would understand me better. But that's what my notes are. So
when I talked to Rob Clemens
everywhere.
last week about that rainy day fund, he said he was very happy that they're still in a very strong position with that rainy day fund. If you remember in the last session, the first half of this biennium, they cut roughly the same amount. So that's a little more than $300 million that's been cut out of the rainy day fund in this full session, in this biennium. But Clemens says
and
they're
I want
still in a
to take
strong
a minute
position.
Absolutely. I want to take a minute to point out Nebraska has to have a balanced budget. 49 states do, but along with that, not everywhere has a rainy day fund. So if you are a KSNB watcher, this will probably be on 1011 too. This will be on all their websites. I am beginning an investigation into a district that does not have a strong rainy day fund, and they're having some problems with it. So I'll tease that. Make sure you stay tuned for that.
Well, we look forward to your investigative reporting. You've had some come out this month that just incredible work. So we appreciate the work
Thank you. I appreciate
you're
it.
doing. And we're happy to talk more about that as it comes out.
Absolutely.
So we've got a balanced budget. What happens now? Okay, it goes to Pillen's desk during the session.
Does Pillen sign it? Does Pillen line item veto? There are so many questions we have to ask ourselves.
We're so in this strange place here. He has till midnight tomorrow to sign it. So during a normal session, all of these bills that get passed on final reading, he has 5 days to either sign them or veto them. If he does nothing, it automatically becomes law. The budget, he has till midnight Tuesday, that's midnight tomorrow, to provide his line item veto. If we all remember back to last year, he had it delivered to the Secretary of State's office, when it was supposed to go to the clerk's office. And I think that was about a little over $30 million in line item vetoes that he had that ultimately went through because he didn't deliver it to the right place. So I reached out to his spokesperson last week and said, is there anything in the budget that you think right off the bat is going to be something that he vetoes? We did not get a response. I talked with our friends at the Examiner. They had asked a similar question. They didn't get a response. So we are just waiting to see if there are any line item vetoes that come down out of this. Sine die is set for Friday. That doesn't give them a ton of time. to get through them.
And
But
I think we
they
might
can
want to
also
actually
come
point
back
out
April
for some of our
17th if they
viewers
had
what a
to.
line item veto is, by the way, Darsha, because you and I,
Absolutely.
we know what that is. But a line item veto is a unique power state governors have. I don't believe all governors even have it, but state governors can basically take bills and scratch lines out and veto lines, but not the entire bill.
Correct.
The president, federal bills do not have that ability. The president is just all or nothing, where state governors can actually do, it's called a line item veto, where they veto just a line.
And it's interesting, when I talked to Rob Clemens last week about it, I said, do you expect, have you heard, do you have any idea if any of these are coming down? And his exact words were, and we love Robert Clemens, he's been doing this for 10 years, it is hysterical to watch him manage the zoo that is doing a budget, right?
Yep.
And he's very, he seems very, like, when you look at him, maybe standoffish a little bit, but when you get him talking about the budget, he's so passionate about it. And he said the governor doesn't have anything to complain about. We've given him a clean bill. So Clemens isn't expecting, if he is, he didn't act like it, that there would be any line item vetoes coming down, but we just have to wait and see what comes out of this. So we will be
And we got to pay attention to both the Secretary of State's office and everybody else's offices as well. We don't know where that'll go.
That's right. And obviously...
Bad joke right there, sorry.
Evans' office, the Secretary of State, had sent out a brief in, I think it was December, lining out what has to happen in order to do a veto. How, if it passes during the session, if it's after the session, if it's these actual vetoes he's sending out. So that process has been laid out. We will see tomorrow night if anything comes out of it. In the meantime, it is the last week. I mean, this is sine die set for Friday. They're set to be done with this biennium session on Friday. And that does not mean that there's not a ton left on the agenda to get through this week. So tomorrow alone, we're watching LB 933, which is John Kavanaugh's protection for medical providers that recommend cannabis to their patients. That's up on a select file debate. The George Dungan bill about pediatric immune disorders that we've covered with the Troop family here in Lincoln, that's up on select file as well. There are domestic violence bills that are up for final reading. The branding bill is back. So there's a ton going on this week, in addition to waiting to see if these vetoes come out. And of course, every day that ticks by, we're just getting closer and closer to the primary election, which is a little over a month from now.
And there's been some very interesting stuff. I don't know if we want to talk about that yet, but pretty interesting stuff with some of the shall we say, contestants, those running for election in both sides.
We will have a ton of special episodes on the election coming out. So we've thrown a lot of numbers and craziness at you. Of course, we'll be watching all week this week, covering this final week, covering any Pillen vetoes, and then we will be back next Monday to bring you just a final wrap of what this session has looked like, this short 60-day session, and then we'll be taking
doesn't feel short,
a very short breather before we get into the primary, another short breather for the general, and then by then it'll be almost time to come back in for our next biennium. So we appreciate all of you that have been watching. It never ends, and honestly, I don't want it to. I do not want. I love covering the legislature. And I'm a little sad. I'm a little excited for our Capitol Press Corps sine die party. I'm a little sad that it came up so soon. But again, if there's anything that we haven't talked about this session, give us a call, shoot us an email, find us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and we will fit it in. So, Ian,
absolutely.
Best of luck with your Monday. We will see you right back here next week.
I need it right back at you, Darsha.
Sounds good.